How do we see our life? But through a story that we keep writing one step at a time. We create our own narrative of reality we perceive. And since we have the same biological substrate, we kind of see the same reality with some cultural deviation. But how do you know? How do we know that reality is real? And how do you know that we perceive at least partially this real reality and not just our rendering of it? Because evolutionary, we were programmed to survive such an amount of years, and this amount of years supposed to be enough for us to reproduce, and that's it. How do you know the full reality itself? Because we see our life through obstacles that we're supposed to navigate. And we can only perceive reality one step at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. We can only be in we can only measure our life through years, and we are able only exist in one spot at a time. We cannot be in many spots at the same time, in many places at the same time. And we measure our distance the way we walk, the way we travel. We're incredibly limited in this case. And we created our own stories. We have meta story, and from this meta story we create our own many stories that help us to accumulate experience that works. We create theology, religion, to deal with the notion of mortality. There's many religions on the planet, but only Christianity became incredibly successful and created incredibly successful civilization currently now we live in. Because Christianity created one God. And in some sense, with this creation of one God, we understood our self-awareness, and the mind itself, that we have one mind. Before, Greeks, they have many gods. And if you read Homer, Odyssey, people communicate with many gods at the same time. They have to do many sacrifices to different kind of gods. In some sense, Christianity merged all those gods into one. And therefore, we have only one voice inside of us that we can listen and negotiate with and talk to find the answer on why are we here. And this one God and the idea of one mind created this civilization that we exist now. And now, with this comfort, with this interesting idea of existence, somehow we created artificial intelligence. And this artificial intelligence seems like slowly drifting away from our biology. We delegate, or we begin delegating more and more of our intellect to artificial intelligence while living ourselves only with biology and our biological urges. Before, religion helped us to manage properly our urges, to control properly our biology. We limited ourselves consciously from doing certain things because as the result of certain things, society might become too unstable and your physical appearance or your physical endurance might become too feeble. You can't be strong if you yield to every urge your body produces. What's happening now when we delegate this intelligence to artificial intelligence? We became obsessed with our biology more and more. Seems like the less we believe in God, the more we believe in our biology. And the more we believe in our biology, the more we getting obsessed with our biological urges. and believe the point of this life to be enslaved by our own body. And what happened now, more and more people I notice in the West try to drift toward paganism, back to many gods, back to the nature when they worship trees and many other things, and become more biological, becoming more, in some sense, even animalistic in their desires, more simplistic in their desires. I don't know if it's good or bad, but that's what happened now, because people became so comfortable and they confuse their biological urges for the meaning of their life. But biology was never the meaning of our life, because we die. And the meaning of our life was, if you take on a primitive level, is to survive and reproduce. But when we became self-conscious and self-aware of ourselves and the world, and especially self-aware of especially when we become aware of our own mortality, we start asking question, what's the point? Because when on a certain point we become aware of mortality, we become aware of time. And when we become aware of time, we become counting our life years. And we know that the day will come and we're gonna die, and we start asking question, what is the point of this life, and how can I live my life as meaningful as I can? Because you can drown in your hedonistic desires and propagate sex and entertainment and everything just to numb yourself in some sense, but it's not the point of life, because in the end you will be completely broken by your own biology that you never control properly. Because you can compare your biology with a horse, with this wild horse that you try to tame, and you constantly try to tame it during all your life, because it's always tried to get out of control. And the more you tame it, the better you control it, the more you rein it, the farther you can go by using this horse or by your own biology. And this delegation of our intelligence to artificial intelligence produce in us slowly this desire to do as little as possible. I'm kind of concerned about this obsession in AI communities with longevity. People believe they're going to live 150 years, 200 years. But nobody asks, what's the point? Seems like it's not a quality of years anymore, but quantity of years. And another thing that makes me really concerned is that we're going to delegate everything, the entire hard work to artificial intelligence, and somehow we will become happy by dissipating ourselves into hedonistic desires. Because what else you can do? What exactly can you do if there's no way to push yourself? What you can do? We don't know. We never think about this stuff. We just gonna live the way we can. But what's the point of your life if there's no hardship? I know we can invent other hardship, but the main point of life to find your meaning by taking responsibility for your own existence. And if you delegate all this responsibility for your own existence to artificial intelligence, where are you going to get this responsibility for yourself? Because if you don't need to force yourself to survive, you need to learn something new to survive, because like I'm going to live 150 years, I'm going to live 200 years, and all my needs get met by robotics and by AI, and you know that you're not going to die and everything is good, like biologically you're completely satisfied, then what's the point? Because this constant imbalance and this constant fight between biology and intelligence, that's what pushed our civilization to achieve success. Because even if you take a look at yourself, you can compare yourself with civilization. For example, if I take myself, right? I try to stay in shape. I try to eat proper. I try to be disciplined. I try to restrain myself constantly. And it helps me to work harder on my project. It helps me to accomplish more in my work because I take care of my body, I take care of my biology. But if I yield too much to my biology, I become more lazier, I become more corrupt, and I always have to balance. I have to always balance and walk in the middle because I know my biology is important because I don't have a body, I'm a body. But at the same time, even if I'm a body, I'm still have consciousness, I'm still have mind, I'm still self-aware, and I have to somehow separate myself from myself to be able to understand what more I can achieve, what more I can learn, what more I can force myself to understand. Otherwise, if your biology, for example, if you completely focus on your hedonism, on your hedonistic desires, and only concerned with your biological satisfaction, you become more an animal than something more. This fight, this constant imbalance, that's what makes humans great. That's what makes us unique from the animal world. Because if you take a look at the animals, they limited in their expression of life. They just procreate to survive and procreate. That's all they have. While humanity, as the result of our self-awareness and of our consciousness, there's animals, yes, like dogs or cats, they have some sort of the consciousness, but our consciousness is much more higher because we have many, many layers, and maybe it's because of the result of our linguistic abilities. But come back to that, since we became so conscious on a certain point of our life, it gives us ability to be more than just an animal, more than our biology. And what happening now, delegating all intelligence, the most important thing in us, to artificial intelligence. We leave ourselves with our biology, and this biology will be easily satisfied by robots, by AI. And what happened to us, we just probably will die out. Otherwise, I don't see the point. What's the point to live 200 years? What exactly you gonna do? What? Because you have incredibly intelligent being that much more intelligent than you are, than the whole corpus of people. And what are you going to do? What are you going to achieve? Because you're in the end, I don't know. It's so strange because it seems like when we created one God in Christianity, when we became self-aware, and when we tried to understand what our mind is, we created this incredibly great civilization with enlightenment, where people were able to have access to education. And now on this peak of our civilization, we created artificial intelligence. And now we want to delegate our intelligence to artificial intelligence and come back to where we were before, almost on this animalistic level of comfortable existence where every biological urge will be satisfied through artificial intelligence. But for some reason, we're ignoring the meaning of life is not in comfort, it's not in biological existence. The meaning of life in something more, in this idea of mind that we keep exploring, because that's what I think the meaning of life, an idea of mind that we keep exploring and that we keep learning. Because if artificial intelligence, there's nothing worse if artificial intelligence will find all answers on our questions, because then what's the point in our existence? What? Because it's going to be just, biological existence till we die, because there's no more questions to ask. We have all answers. And I think there's nothing worse than to have all answers, even on the questions you never ask.